South Africa versus Brazil. Which country is better? The Republic of South Africa, most commonly referred to as South Africa or SA, occupies the southern tip of the African continent and borders the nations of Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Swaziland, and Lesotho. Its long coastline stretches more than 2,500 kilometers from the desert border, with Namibia on the Atlantic coast southwards around the tip of Africa, and then north to the border with subtropical Mozambique on the Indian Ocean. It is the most modern nation on the continent, with its protected wildlife and ecosystem, balanced by its modern infrastructure, unmatched in Africa. Brazil, officially the Federative Republic of Brazil, is the largest country in South America. It is the world's fifth largest country by area, the fifth most populous, and the fourth most populous democracy in the world. The Brazilian population tends to concentrate along the Atlantic coastline in large urban centers. While Brazil has one of the largest populations in the world, its overall population density is low, since the vast inland regions are sparsely populated. Well, let's not say too much about these two countries before our actual comparison. The comparison will be based on geography, economy, sports, tourism, infrastructure, and security, also with an overall outlook. Before we dive in, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and also turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our new uploads. Geography. Bound by the Atlantic Ocean on the east, Brazil has a coastline of over 7,367 kilometers. It borders Venezuela, Suriname, Guyana, and French Guiana to the north, Uruguay to the south, Argentina and Paraguay to the southwest, Bolivia and Peru to the west, and Colombia to the northwest. Brazil is traversed by the equator and Tropic of Capricorn and is home to varied fauna and flora, as well as extensive natural resources. Brazilian topography is diverse, including hills, mountains, plains, highlands, scrublands, savannas, rainforests, and a long coastline. The extensive low-lying Amazon rainforest covers most of Brazil's terrain in the north. Small hills and low mountains occupy the south. Along the Atlantic coast, there are several mountain ranges with altitudes of roughly 2,900 meters. The highest peak is 3,014 meters, Pico da Neblina in Guyana's highlands. Major rivers include the Amazon, the largest river in terms of volume of water and the second largest in the world, the Parana and its major tributary, the Iguazu River, where the Iguazu Falls are located, as well as the Negro, São Francisco, Singo, Madeira, and Tapajós rivers. Back to South Africa. South Africa is located at the southernmost region of Africa, with a long coastline that stretches more than 2,500 kilometers and across two oceans, the Atlantic and the Indian. It borders the countries of Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Swaziland. South Africa is the world's 25th largest country and is nearly twice the size of the US state of Texas. Njesuthi in the Drakensberg at 3,408 meters is the highest peak in South Africa. South Africa has a great variety of climate zones, from the extreme desert of the southern Namib in the farthest northwest to the lush subtropical climate in the east, along the border with Mozambique and the Indian Ocean. From the east, the land quickly rises over a mountainous escarpment toward the interior plateau known as the Highveld. Even though South Africa is classified as semi-arid, there is considerable variation in climate as well as topography. South Africa has one possession, the small sub-Antarctic archipelago of the Prince Edward Islands, consisting of Marion Island and Prince Edward Island, not to be confused with the Canadian province of the same name. South Africa has more than 20,000 different plants, or about 10% of all known species of plants on Earth, making it particularly rich in plant biodiversity. But while it has a great wealth of flowering plants, it has few forests. Only 1% of South Africa is forest, almost exclusively in the humid coastal plain along the Indian Ocean. Concluding on the geography of these two countries is not easy, as both have stunning topologies that really stand out in their respective zones. With that said, I'll leave the choice for you to decide, but if I were to pick, it will be South Africa. Economy. By UN classification, South Africa is a middle-income country with an abundant supply of resources, well-developed financial, legal, communications, energy, and transport sectors. A stock exchange that ranks among the 10 largest in the world, and a modern infrastructure supporting an efficient distribution of goods to major urban centers throughout the region. South Africa's per capita GDP positions the country as one of the 50 wealthiest in the world. South Africa is also the continent's largest energy producer and consumer. South Africa has an estimated GDP of about $320 billion. Brazil's GDP is the highest of Latin America, with large and developed agricultural, mining, manufacturing, and service sectors, as well as a large labor pool. The country has been expanding its presence in international financial and commodities market and is regarded as one of the groups of 4 emerging economies. Major export products include aircraft, coffee, automobiles, soybeans, iron ore, orange juice, steel, ethanol, textiles, footwear, corned beef, and electrical equipment. As of 2021, Brazil's GDP is estimated to be $1,620 billion. Concluding, South Africa has an amazing economy. I mean, one of the best in Africa, but still doesn't match the economy of Brazil. Judging from the figures, it's quite obvious who this round goes to. Sports. Football is the most popular sport in Brazil. The Brazilian national football team has been victorious in the World Cup tournament a record 5 times. In 1958, 1962, 1970, 1994, and 2002. It is ranked the best in the world by FIFA. Basketball, volleyball, auto racing, and martial arts also attract large audiences. Tennis, handball, swimming, and gymnastics have found a growing number of enthusiasts in recent decades. In auto racing, Brazilian drivers have won the Formula One World Championship 8 times. Now that's quite a record Brazil has kept in sport, and I'm honestly not sure it's one SA can match. Sports in South Africa has a significant role in South African culture. The 3 most popular mainstream sports in the country include football, rugby, and cricket. Association football has historically been particularly popular amongst persons of African descent, and it is South Africa's most popular sport. The South African National Rugby Union team, which is nicknamed Springboks or the Book, are currently ranked number 1 in the world in rugby union, and tens of millions love the team due to many successful World Cup campaigns. South Africa also hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Concluding on this round, I will immediately say it goes to Brazil, for obvious reasons. Infrastructure and security. South Africa has a very good infrastructural system with large paved roads, underground passages, well-planned towns, beautiful and modern buildings meeting international standard. To be fair, this country has the best infrastructure when it comes to road network and city planning in Africa. Every year, the government of SA pours billions of dollars into infrastructural maintenance and development. As for security, the South African National Defence Force comprises the armed forces of South Africa. The commander of the SANDF is appointed by the President of South Africa from one of the armed services. They are in turn accountable to the Minister of Defence and military veterans of the Defence Department. For 2021, South Africa is ranked 32 out of 140 out of the countries considered for the annual GFP review. It holds a power rating index score of 0.5665. For a country with various vast resources, a growing purchasing power, and a new role in global politics, Brazil has still not made sufficient investment in its infrastructure. In the 70s, infrastructure investment averaged 5.4% of GDP, but that number has dropped off to just over 2% in the 2000s. Roads require upgrading, although they remain the most common method of passenger and freight transportation due to a limited rail network. Furthermore, despite the existence of several rivers, waterways are rarely used except as an access to isolated points in the Amazon region. While the 2014 FIFA World Cup and 2016 Olympic Games have presented opportunities for Brazil to benefit from tourism and prove to the world that it is an important global player, the private sector continues to suffer setbacks that reduce infrastructure investment. Looking at security, the armed forces of Brazil comprise the Brazilian Army, the Brazilian Navy, and the Brazilian Air Force. The military police is described as an ancillary force of the army, but is under the control of each state's governor. The Brazilian armed forces are the largest in Latin America. The Brazilian Air Force is the largest air force in Latin America, with about 700 manned aircraft in service. The Brazilian Navy is responsible for guarding Brazilian territorial waters. It is the oldest of the Brazilian armed forces and the only navy in Latin America that operates an aircraft carrier. With a strength of approximately 190,000 soldiers, the Brazilian Army is responsible for land-based military operations. For 2021, Brazil is ranked 9 out of 140 out of the countries considered for the annual GFP review. It holds a power rating index score of 0.2026. Concluding on infrastructure and security, I will give both nations an even score as Brazil wins in military but loses in infrastructure, while SA wins in infrastructure and loses in military strength. Tourism. South Africa offers both domestic and international tourists a wide variety of options, among others the picturesque natural landscape and game reserves, diverse cultural heritage, and highly regarded wines. To be honest and making the long story short, South Africa has some of the best tourist attractions in the world and is amongst the most visited countries by tourists internationally. Brazil, on the other hand, is equally a very touristic country, giving tourists a vast variety of options, amongst others the Amazon, cultural dances, sports, and a lot more. Both SA and Brazil have beautiful beaches, amazing wildlife, and wonderful tourist experiences. Well, concluding on tourism, I'll say these countries complement each other and both offer quite unique and beautiful experiences, making this round an even for both countries. Outlook. Both countries are beautiful and are quite attractive to the eye, but not to be biased, I'll give this round to SA, mainly for its exquisite infrastructural setups and modern town planning. Our final conclusion will be a draw for both countries, although Brazil has an upper hand and a slight chance of winning this comparison. SA sure puts up a good fight. There you have it, explorers. South Africa versus Brazil. Which was better? Well, you tell us in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment.